What's up guys, Ryan here from Mud Gunner. Today we are talking about guns and the self-defense mindset that goes with carrying a gun. So let's get into it. What is the self-defense mindset in my mind? I think it's the desire to protect yourself and to protect your family, friends, loved ones, whatnot, maybe a stranger if you can. I just wanted to talk about my thoughts on the subject and what I think it means to have the self-defense mindset and what it could mean for you if you're a beginner. Oh, that was Harley. If you're a beginner just getting into guns, or maybe you've had guns for a minute and you've never really thought about it in that way, this could be a good video to kind of just open your minds to different possibilities. And this is just a conversation to kind of get you thinking about what it means to carry a gun for self-defense, because there's a lot of responsibility that goes with it. Carrying a gun it's a big deal. It might seem like not a big deal, and we get very complacent to it because I work in a gun store every day, so I'm very used to guns. I am desensitized to guns, but I think it's important to always take guns seriously no matter how comfortable you are with them, because when people get comfortable, sometimes they get a little complacent, and that's when mistakes can happen. And you don't want to make a mistake with a gun because it can cost you or someone their life or major injury. So let's get into it. When it comes to carrying a gun, I think some of the main points to it is you need to be trained. You don't want to just carry a gun and not know how to use it. And it's not as easy as they make it seem, like in a movie, especially movies where it's like a beginner or some nobody picks up the gun and just knows how to use it. If you're a gun person, you and I know that's like not how it works at all. It does take time and training to learn a gun and to be accurate with it, because accuracy takes time to build up. And once you get comfortable with a bunch of guns, it's much easier to learn new systems and new guns. But yeah, it's not just something that anyone can pick up and just know how to use right away. If you can, that's great for you, but that's not the reality for most people. So if you carry a gun and you plan on buying a gun for self-defense, I think it's very important to train with it, to know how to use it. Anyone else in the house that might be using it, they need to know how it works and what happens when you use it. And another thing, just aside from the shooting aspect of it, is what happens when you use your gun. Because if you use your gun for self-defense, or realistically at all outside of a shooting range or shooting spots, there's a chance you'll have to go to court and plead your case as to why you used your gun. So I think there's a lot that goes into it, and there are tons of courses, and at least here in Arizona, you could take a concealed carry course, and most of it is just learning what happens when you use your gun for self-defense, or if you have to shoot someone, if you shoot in a public place, like what happens when you use your gun in those instances, because it can be very life-changing. I've luckily never had to experience that, and I hope to never have to experience that, because it is a pretty crazy process. And even if you were 100% in the right, you have to justify that to people that do not know you, that were not there, whether there's video recordings of what happened or not. Like, you have to fight for your life in the courts if you use your gun. So this topic can really be talked about in a very long video, but I'm not going to make it long. It might be like 10 to 15 minutes, but if you carry a gun for self-defense, I highly recommend getting a concealed carry permit, because you do learn a lot just taking that class, learning laws specifically. I don't know how it works in every state. In Arizona, concealed carry permit's not required, but I still took the class and got my permit, because extra knowledge is not going to hurt you. It's only going to help you. So I got that, and I would recommend it to anyone. And they're not too expensive. In Arizona, it's like $50, and then you pay $60 to get the permit. It's good for 5 years. At the end of the 5 years, you just pay $43 to renew it. So I plan on keeping that up and staying on top of the knowledge as best as I can. So I would recommend it to anyone that might be interested in that. And if you're in another state, just kind of look at your local state courses, because every state has gun courses. Even in like California and whatnot, you can find courses, you can find knowledge. It's all out there. So I would recommend getting trained textbook smart and the hands-on training with actually shooting. So again, when we're carrying a gun for self-defense, some things to think about are, what is your mindset with it? Because I work in a gun store, and I've worked in the gun store for almost 10 years now, and I have heard lots of mindsets with carrying a gun. And I'm just going to hold this right here. So I've heard people say, oh, I could never kill someone, but I would shoot them in the leg if I had to. And obviously killing someone is not the goal, right? Like, we don't just own guns to want to shoot people. We're not criminals seeking violence. We're just armed citizens that want to protect our freedoms, protect our lives, protect our loved ones. And that is how I view it. So while I don't want to kill people, I don't plan on just wanting to shoot someone in the leg if they're trying to take my life. I don't think that's the right way to go about it. That just opens up for so much more potential disaster. And you don't know what the other person's willing or not willing to do. If they have a gun in their hand and you're only willing to shoot them in the leg, that might cost you or your loved ones their lives. So I just think if that's your mindset on it, you should probably get a little bit more education and training from people that have experienced that, or, from a lawyer's standpoint, what happens in that case, because that could be very eye-opening to your thoughts on that. And then the other side of it is I've heard people say, oh, I have a gun, but I could never use it for self-defense, and they carry the gun. Well, then you're just potentially arming someone that's willing to hurt you and take your gun, and they could go hurt other people with it. So I don't think that's the right way about it either. But again, it's very much a mindset thing. I know the thought of having to defend your life and cost someone else theirs, it's a big thing to think about, and you should be thinking about it. And, my mind is kind of like hyperactive. Like, I'm always thinking about bad situations, but I'm not thinking about them in a bad way. I'm thinking about them in, how would I handle myself under that much, intense pressure, where my life depends on it, someone else's life depends on it. Like, I like to always be thinking about bad scenarios so I can hopefully avoid being in those scenarios or get myself out if that happens. So I don't think my mindset is bad as far as thinking about them. I'm always just thinking to keep myself protected and my loved ones protected. So yeah, the first rule is don't get yourself in that spot, but it can happen to anyone. So the next rule is, have a plan to get yourself out. And gun does level the playing field against people that are willing to harm you or take your life. We have the internet accessible to us extremely easily, and unfortunately, like Instagram, Facebook, whatnot, it is filled with just videos of people breaking into other people's homes, like 3 or 5 guys with guns, and I don't want to know what they're willing to do once they get in the house. I don't want them to get in my house. So I have the means to protect myself, and I train as much as I can to avoid a situation like that, but to get out of a situation like that if it were to happen. And having that mindset's also good, because if you're in a situation where, let's say you're at the mall or whatnot, or a big public place with a lot of people and shots start going off, having a gun doesn't necessarily help you, because if you were to just draw your gun in a big crowd, people might view you as the bad guy. So there's just a lot of thought that goes into it. Or let's say, for example, I went to Greece last year. I can't carry my guns in Greece. Now me, I carry a gun every day, but let's say I want to travel to other countries and whatnot, and I can't carry my gun. I'm not going to let that hold me back from enjoying my life. I'm always thinking about those mindsets and how to get myself to safety. So I was perfectly okay going without a gun for a week in Greece, and I enjoyed myself. I always paid attention to my surroundings, and yeah, it was a very fun time. Now I wouldn't just go into the heart of known cartel or drug empire territories, but I think traveling can be fun, and I know some people that don't travel strictly because they can't bring their gun with them. So I don't want to let that hold me back from enjoying life. But while I have my gun on, I'm in full self-defense mode, and when I have my gun off, it doesn't necessarily change. I just have to plan my exit strategy, basically. So yeah, I think it is a topic that you should think about and talk about with your friends and family. Like, I talk about this with my girlfriend all the time, because it's kind of thought-provoking and brain-challenging to figure out what you would do in certain situations, or planning with your partner, because obviously everyone has their own mindset. My girlfriend and I each have different mindsets, but luckily we kind of bounce ideas off each other. She does like the mindset I've helped her develop since we've been together, because honestly, if you're a girl, you're a way bigger target than guys are. So girls get attacked, robbed all the time, and I think you should definitely have the means to protect yourself. My girlfriend carries a gun, and we've really worked on, her training, on her mindset, not being on your phone all the time in public, because it's very easy to just stare at your phone in public. And I do show her the videos of people getting attacked while being completely unaware of their surroundings. And that might be a little harsh, but it's just to help her open her mind to the potential possibilities. And, they're not necessarily the greatest possibilities, but that's why I show her that, so she has the better mindset to not just be stuck to her phone in public. So yeah, I do think there's a benefit to seeing bad things happening, because we can learn from them. And unfortunately, there's always going to be bad people in the world, so just have one step ahead of them. On the other side of guns, right? So everyone looks at a Glock and they relatively know, okay, decent gun for self-defense, it's fun range gun, and shooting can be a very fun hobby and rewarding, and you don't necessarily have to just buy every gun for self-defense, right? You can have some guns for fun, but the principles are still the same. You have to treat it as a deadly weapon, because you have the means to protect life in your hands, but you also have the means to take life in your hands. So no matter what you buy a gun for, you just have to know that that's what you are holding, and it's a very serious topic in that way. But you can have fun with it as long as you're safe. And the other thing that some people do, is they'll buy crazy things like this. This is a suppressed pistol, and it's mostly a range toy. And if you're wondering what I'm pointing at, I have a brick wall right here. So this to me is mostly a fun range toy. But the other thing is, no matter what gun I buy, I would never hold myself back from using it to protect me if I needed to. So what that means is I see a lot of people, they'll own like X gun, right? They'll own a Glock, or they'll own like $1,000 pistol, and they're like, they'll go into the store and buy something like this. This is a high point. It's not the greatest self-defense gun. They're just very cheap and not the greatest quality. But I'll see guys that have guns this expensive, buying guns this expensive to protect their life. They're like, oh, well, I don't want to lose this to the police if I had to use it for self-defense. Now, yeah, that is a real thing. Like, if you use your gun for self-defense, it's going to get taken into evidence because they have to process it and make sure that it was a justified shooting. So I get that, but what I don't get is that you would limit your life to being only worth $200. So that's not the way to go about it in my mind, because in my mind, if you saved up and bought that gun once, you can do it again. And I would have no problem, you know, my life is worth everything to me. So if I spent $10,000 on a gun and the next hour someone is trying to kill me and I had to use that $10,000 gun to protect myself, my life was worth that $10,000 every single day of the week. So buying something like this, now you'll notice I do own this gun, and this does have somewhat of a defensive role. This is like a gun that I just kind of leave in a specific spot if I had to get to it, but my carry guns are decent guns. Like, they're quality guns. This is one of my carry guns. This is a Smith & Wesson Shield, but yeah, I am not limiting my life to a dollar amount because my life is worth everything to me. Now, this gun is chambered, so I'm not going to mess with it too much, but again, I do have a brick wall right here, and the ammo that I have in this gun is actually pretty funny because it's expensive ammo. This is Winchester Black Talon ammo and a high point 45. So some of you guys might laugh at that, and that's okay. But yeah, don't limit your life to, you know, what you can afford in your wallet that day, because your life is worth much more than that. If you have the means to buy it once, you can definitely buy it again. And if it's a justified shooting, chances are you'll probably get your gun back. But yeah, I mean, that's a life-changing experience in general. So that's not something I can speak to at all, but I can speak to the fact that if you are buying a gun for self-defense, you don't have to go with the cheapest thing you can, you know, afford losing to the police, because that makes no sense to me. I just don't think that's the right way to think about that. So yeah, don't limit yourself to a cost for that. Now, as far as, you know, a variety of guns for self-defense, so I have something like this. This is a Serbu Super Shorty. This is a 12-gauge shotgun. Everyone has their different viewpoints of what gun is the best for self-defense, whether it be a pistol, rifle, or shotgun. It doesn't matter to me what you choose, you know, just get training and know what each gun's capable of. So this is something that I carry on me, and I might be a little bit more, I guess, extreme compared to other people because I am willing to carry fancier guns with me. Like, this is a NFA item, it's an AOW, it's only a $5 tax stamp, but it's a 6.5-inch 12-gauge shotgun. I keep this in my backpack. Now, do you need a shotgun in your backpack when you go to work or not? That's up to you. I'm not going to tell you yes or no. I work in a gun store, so I like bringing guns to work. It's just part of my hobby, part of my life, and it's okay with my job. Obviously, not every job is going to be okay if you keep a 12-gauge in your backpack, but you know, it's just part of my lifestyle, and I'm very accustomed to it. I take it very seriously. I train with the guns that I carry for self-defense, and you know, in my backpack, I also keep medical. I keep a soft body armor panel in there too. And yeah, I try to have the means to protect myself, but I also have the means to save someone in my backpack. And that's something that other people don't think about either, is medical. And training with medical is very important too. And I will say I don't have as much experience training wise. I've taken an IFAC course, which is individual first aid kit. And it is a very eye-opening course. It was 9 hours and it was a lot of fun, a lot of hands-on experience, but you just learn about different types of injuries, and they're not all gun related. Like an IFAC can be like having a tourniquet can be very useful if someone slices an artery in a kitchen, or car accidents. I have personally witnessed lots of car accidents, and I was talking to my coworkers about this today. It was kind of funny, but it was kind of weird because in 2022, I had to call the police like 5 times throughout the year for just witnessing car accidents. I just kept like being the first person on scene. Like I watch car accidents happen fairly often in 2022, just right place at the wrong time. But honestly, it was comforting knowing that I had recently just taken the IFAC course. I kept a lot of medical in my car, and I still do. And this one time, I was at a red light on this side, this guy was at a red light on this side, and this car just hit him at like 50 miles an hour as a drunk driver. I instantly called 911. As soon as the light turned green, I went across and I parked behind them. And I was just on the phone with 911, told them where we were. I asked them if I can hang up so I can go check and see if anyone needed medical help. And I ran out with my IFAC and my first aid kit. And I was just prepared to help in any way I could. So in that instance, I didn't need a gun. I was carrying a gun, but I didn't need a gun because the threat of, a violent attack was probably not likely. But, drunk driving incidents are very serious, and unfortunately they happen here a lot in Arizona. I'm sure they happen in other states, but I got up to the scene, and the guy that hit the car, he went from the driver's seat to the back right passenger seat, and he hopped out that door, and he was drunk. And I was trying to talk to him. He could barely talk. He also didn't really speak much English, so that didn't help, but he was just very drunk. I could tell he was very drunk. So I moved from him to the car that he hit, and it was this younger guy, like in his 20s, maybe like my age. He was on the phone, and I was trying to talk to him if he was okay. He was a little dazed, and he's probably in shock a little bit, but he said he was fine, but he was just on the phone talking to the whoever that he got hit. So, but I already called 911 at that point, so I was just kind of hanging out there until they got there. And yeah, I felt a lot more comfortable just having my medical on me in that situation. And that wasn't something that happened to me. It was just I happened to witness it. So medical is another very important thing with the self-defense mindset, is just having the means to protect you or someone else. So yeah, these are just some of the very many talking points we can talk about. So know what it means to, carry a gun. You need to be trained with it. It's not just something that you can hop into without any knowledge or training or information. I wouldn't recommend it. And then, knowing what it means if you have to fire it in a self-defense scenario, because that is a whole different realm of knowledge. You have to go to court and all that. So get education on that. I would say medical is very good too, just knowing how to treat yourself or your loved ones. And knowledge, I'm always trying to learn as much as I can. I watch YouTube videos of different scenarios. I'm trying to get as much free knowledge as I can, because courses can be expensive. I'm not saying you have to do a course every month, but doing courses on top of doing your own research can be very helpful. So those are just my talking points. I'm sure you guys might have a few comments or questions. Comment down below what you guys think and maybe your mindset with it, if there's anything that I missed, because again, it's hard to talk about all of it. There is a lot that goes into it, but yeah, comment down below. Let me know what you guys think. Thank you guys for watching, and stay tuned for my next video.